Broadcasting live from the New Creations Weight Loss Studio in Little Rock, it's Crime Chronicle Live with your host, Val Emmons.
Welcome everybody. This is a fabulous Saturday afternoon. I'm Val Emmons, your host, and in the studio with me I have Ed Monk. You've been hearing a lot from Ed lately, and we are actually doing a presentation tonight, or Ed is, I'm sorry, I'm facilitating and moderating the presentation at Whole Hog on Cantrell. And so if you want to get more information on that, you can go to my Facebook page, Val Emmons, and it's free. You have to buy your own food, of course, but it's going to be very educational. Ed, you want to tell us a bit about it, and then we'll get started?
Well, it's just going to cover the Constitution of how we got to creating it, how we created it, and then get into it and learn the details about it. A lot of people kind of scared of it. They say, if you ask somebody, have you ever read the Constitution cover to cover? And they say, oh, God, no, it's too big. And the copy I'm going to hand out tonight, it's 2 pieces of paper. It's 2 pages front and back. 4 pages is all the Constitution is. It's really very short, and in almost every case, it's very simple. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to package it for everybody, a little bit entertaining, a little bit of humor. But if you ever want to know what's in the Constitution, a lot of people talk about, well, is that constitutional? Does the Constitution allow that? We'll get into the specifics of the Constitution tonight, and you'll be able to answer those things. We'll talk about things that you hear about in the news, the veto, the Electoral College, the filibuster, impeachment, full faith and credit clause, all those other terms you hear about in the Constitution. We'll explain that tonight. It's not as complicated as it sounds.
And you have a year to learn this stuff before election time.
That's right.
So we want to get everyone up to speed, and if there's somebody if you're not clear about it, come out, and even if you are clear about it, come out, because we're going to have a discussion afterwards.
Every time I go back and read the Constitution, I relearn something that I had forgotten.
Well, it's because you think because your brain is constantly learning things, and you learn new things, and then you go back and you read it, and it's like, oh. So, me too. Every time I hear you or someone else talk about it, I'm like, oh.
And it's not that complicated. There's a few times where they use Old English, and when it gets to counting the votes for the president, that gets a little tough to read through, but the rest of it's actually pretty simple. So
but it's like a bike. The more times you participate in learning about it, the better you understand it.
Yep.
So I want to move now over to yesterday. There was new reports that Snowden leaks show how the NSA gets away with domestic spying. So I want to talk about that a little bit, and I want to get your opinion on anything we talk about today, because I'm going to move fast and I'm going to talk about some things. Mostly on a federal and national level, because there's a lot of stuff that happened this week. And so the number that you can call is 501-433-0092. That's 433-0092, and you can give us a call with any of your comments. So newly leaked National Security Agency documents published by The Guardian yesterday revealed that the NSA can scour vast databases of personal information by searching for names, email addresses, and other identities of United States citizens. More than 2 months after The Guardian first published the leaks, the NSA files attributed to former intelligence contractor Edward Snowden, the paper wrote Friday that their source has also supplied documents showing that the U.S. intelligence community can conduct warrantless searches of communications tied to Americans that are collected under legal authority provided through the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Changes made to FISA, which Obama spoke about yesterday, in 2008, specifically Section 702, gave U.S. investigators the ability to collect the communications of Americans if one of the parties involved was reasonably suspected to be overseas. And while proponents of this program, including U.S. President Barack Obama, have defended against allegations that the U.S. does not conduct domestic spying, new documents supplied by Snowden suggest that the NSA can query the names of Americans in order to search that very data. The previously undisclosed rule change allows NSA operatives to hunt for individual Americans' communications using their name or other identifying information. This was a quote from James Ball and Spencer Ackerman, who write for The Guardian. According to the journalists, the latest Snowden leak shows for the first time ever that the NSA can search databases of intelligence collected through Section 702 for the communications of specific U.S. individuals. While the FAA 702 minimization procedures approved on October 3, 2011, now allow for use of certain United States persons' names and identifiers as query terms, when reviewed collected FAA 702 data. The Guardian quotes from the document, analysts may not implement any USPS queries until an effective oversight process has been developed by NSA and agreed to by the Department of Justice, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. So Ball and Ackerman say that they have been unable to determine if any oversight process has been implemented since June 2012, when they believe the Section 702 memo supplied by Snowden was last updated. The Guardian's last revelation comes by 3 days after President Obama was on talk show host Jay Leno, where he says, "We don't have a domestic spying program." Okay, really? Just yesterday. Josh, I want you to play this audio from his speech yesterday. I think it's like 2:15. Just yesterday, this is what Obama said. Okay, we'll hang on just a second. We're having technical error. But yesterday, he says that we're going to try to propose more oversight and transparency about the NSA. Okay, if you don't have a problem, then why would you try to make changes? If you don't have if you're not doing the things that we think you're doing, why in the world would you have to propose changes and transparency and better investigate this? I don't understand his thinking on that. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. We're having technical difficulties. But if you have a comment on this, go ahead and give us a call, 433-0092, and the phone lines are open right now. So in response to former Obama advisor Van Jones, he told CNN that we don't have a domestic spying program, and what we need to be able to do is figure out how to balance these things, not to pretend like there's no balance to be done. And if you remember before, Josh, do you have that other audio that I sent you? Okay, the computers he had to restart. Sorry about that, folks. So we'll get back to that in a minute. But a balance to be done, which I recall President Obama saying that you can't have 100% security and 100% liberty and personal freedom. So, I mean, it's just his words are just conflicting over a period of less than a couple of weeks' time. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit hip. Josh, I'm sorry. If y'all just see Josh in there, he's like, this audio. It happens. It's radio. Don't fret. I can run my mouth enough. Don't worry about that. There won't be any dead air. So anyway, and you know what? I really could care less about what Van Jones has to say anyway. We all know the Marxist Van Jones, self-proclaimed Marxist. In between Obama's remarks and the Friday publication of The Guardian, the New York Times reported that the NSA copies all overseas messages either sent or received by Americans and then scans them to find references to people or subjects tied to terrorists. So the latest leaked Snowden document suggests the NSA can do much more, though, going as far as to authorize the agency to search for names, email addresses, IP addresses, telephone numbers, and other identifiers of U.S. citizens without needing a warrant. Neither the NSA nor the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence responded to the Guardian's request for comment, but President Obama is expected to weigh in on the topic, federal surveillance, and he did yesterday. But he's expected to. Well, he said he's going to, like I said, make this proposal. But if we can ever get that computer up and running, we'll be able to hear what he said. How close are we? It's okay. We'll move on. We'll come back to that in a minute because I definitely want you to hear that. And I want you to hear what Tom Cotton had to say about when I asked him about the NSA this Thursday on the show. Everyone seems to keep saying that, it's just metadata. It's just numbers and words. It's not your information. But who are we to believe? A man that risked he pretty much gave up his United States citizenry because he'll never be able to come back here. In the States. He'll never be able to come back here unless he's in prison.
Yeah, not as a free man.
No. So he pretty much gave up his life to live in Russia? Really? Really?
And we don't know how long that'll last.
No, we don't. Yeah. Until Putin gets everything he needs from him. Which, I can't blame him. I mean, I really can't blame him. His country is against him right now. You got half of Congress, or probably 3/4 of Congress, calling him a traitor and demanding that you get him back here. And then half the country is either for him. I think he's a patriot. Obama yesterday didn't say the same thing. He didn't think he was a patriot, but I think he's a patriot. He gave up his life to let us know what's going on in our government. And people will disagree with me, and people might not. But how are we to stop these evils in our government if we don't know about them? And, more things have come out, like the IRS working with the FBI and the CIA. Exclusive U.S. directs agents to cover up program used to investigate Americans. So basically what you have is the DEA is getting documents from the IRS, the FBI. They're monitoring you. And this one right here I'd like to read. So, a secretive U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration unit is funneling information from intelligence, intercepts, wiretaps, informants, and mass database of telephone records to authorities across the nation to help them launch criminal investigations on Americans. Unbelievable.
This kind of it touches on what we're going to talk about tonight.
Exactly.
Something
exactly.
Our founders warned us about.
I know.
Over 2 centuries ago was that the government will always claim what they're doing is for your own good, for your own safety. They're only doing it for you, and they'll always say whatever steps they're taking are reasonable, moderate and reasonable steps.
And so, the rest of this article, it's on Reuters. Or Reuters. I'm sorry, I always say that wrong. But so it's not Fox News, people, and it's not MSN. It's raw news from Reuters. Yes, there might be a little bit of slanted opinion in there, but you can pretty much go out and Google it, and you can do your own investigation. And, that is what I say to you anyway. If you don't believe what I have to say here, because I have no reason to lie to you. But if you don't believe what I have to say, go Google it. Read a couple of different articles. Get your own perspective on it. Don't listen to just one side of it. Go get your own perspective. Anyway, so although these cases rarely involve national security issues, documents reviewed by Reuters show that law enforcement agents have been directed to conceal how such investigations truly begin, not only from defense lawyers, but also sometimes from prosecutors and judges. The undated documents show that federal agents are trained to recreate the investigative trail to effectively cover up where the information originated, a practice that some experts say violates the defendant's constitutional right to a fair trial. I don't say that. I know that. That violates your constitutional right if you don't have no way to defend yourself against some evidence that nobody's telling you that they have. Would you agree, Ed?
Yeah, that's one of our rights in the Bill of Rights is you have the right to confront witnesses, which means any evidence that they bring. So,
and if you don't know about the evidence and it's being trashed and not given to you,
that's right.
Then you have no way to defend yourself against it.
You and your defense attorney have the right to see all evidence that's going to be at least tried to be introduced in the court against you.
Right. So this article goes on to say that if defendants don't know how an investigation began, which is what we just said, then they cannot know to ask to review potential sources of exculpatory evidence, information that could be revealed entrapment, mistakes, or biased witnesses. I've never heard of anything like this at all, said Nancy Gertner, a Harvard Law School professor who served as a federal judge from 1994 to 2011. Gertner and other legal experts say the program sounds more troubling than recent disclosures that the National Security Agency has been collecting domestic phone records. They're hand in hand. They're working hand in hand. The NSA is working with the DEA is working with the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's time for us to do something about this. And, everyone that you ask says, oh, well, we're not collecting your metadata. We're not listening to your phone calls. I beg to differ because I do not trust the government. Therefore, I do all my research, which you should too. And, I think this is absolutely terrifying that we've come to this point in our countries. I mean, this is the future. What we do now will shape the rest of our lives and our country for our children. If we continue this, I mean, if you have children, you know they put everything on the internet. They don't hide anything. I mean, and it could be potentially misconstrued in a manner where you've got DEA agents knocking down their door, taking them, and how they can't defend themselves. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back. Hi, this is Val Emmons. Do you have a business? Are you part of a nonprofit? Do you want to reach tens of thousands of loyal and informed consumers? Well, advertising on this radio show is more effective and affordable than you could ever imagine. Please call me 870-897-7716 or email me ccvalemmons@gmail.com to learn how you can have your business or organization's message heard on Crime Chronicle Live. That number again is 870-897-7716. Give me a call today.
Don's Weaponry has been taking care of sportsmen for over 20 years. At Don's, you have a huge selection of new and used pistols and rifles, police trade-ins, holsters, scopes, ammo, reloading supplies, magazines, and more. 6,000 square feet of inventory, including a 7-lane pistol range open 7 days a week. Smith & Wesson, Taurus, Ruger, Kimber, Springfield Armory, Glock, Walther, and more. Stop by Don's Weaponry, 4116 East Broadway in Rose City for everything the hunter and shooter needs.
Did you know diabetes can steal your vision? In fact, diabetes is the leading cause of blindness among adults aged 20 to 74. The truth is, your eyes could already be damaged from diabetes and you may not even know it. There's only one way to find out. Get a retina eye exam. Don't wait. Acting early can help prevent vision loss. The American Society of Retina Specialists and Genentech wants you to see the world as clearly as possible. Find out more on how to protect your vision at diabeteseyecheck.org.
Hi, this is Val Emmons, host of the Crime Chronicle Live. I want to take just a moment to tell you about the HCG diet that helped me lose 32 pounds in 35 days and keep it off. If you want to know more about the HCG diet, you can call Dr. Schroeder at New Creations Weight Loss Clinic at 501-791-6795 to be on your way to a new, slimmer you. You have no idea how good it felt to go into my closet, pull out clothes that hadn't fit me in a year, and put them on, and they fit. So give him a call, Dr. Schroeder, New Creations Weight Loss Clinic, 501-791-6795. You will not regret it. Tell him Val sent you.
You're listening to Crime Chronicle Live with your host, Val Emmons.
And we are back, and Josh just broke the microphone. Not mine, so we're good. That was the funniest thing. Sometimes I wish we had video in here because that was hilarious.
And he fixed it without duct tape.
That's right. No duct tape. And this is Arkansas. We love duct tape. Okay, so if you have comments on what we've been talking about so far, give us a call, 501-433-0092. If not, we'll have a quiet day and I can just talk more. David Lucas says that I talk too much anyway. So, Josh, do you want to go ahead and play that audio of President Obama now?
See, now I've forgotten your first question, which presumably was the more important one. No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. As I said in my opening remarks, I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference, and I think the American people's preference, would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws, a thoughtful, fact-based debate that would then lead us to a better place. Because I never made claims that all the surveillance technologies that have developed since the time some of these laws had been put in place somehow didn't require potentially some additional reforms. That's exactly what I called for. So the fact is that Mr. Snowden's been charged with 3 felonies. If, in fact, he believes that what he did was right, then, like every American citizen, he can come here, appear before the court with a lawyer, and make his case. If the concern was that somehow this was the only way to get this information out to the public, I signed an executive order well before Mr. Snowden leaked this information that provided whistleblower protection to the intelligence community for the first time. So there were other avenues available for somebody whose conscience was stirred and thought that they needed to question government actions. But Having said that, once the leaks have happened, what we've seen is information come out in dribs and in drabs, sometimes coming out sideways. Once the information is out, the administration comes in, tries to correct the record, but by that time it's too late or we've moved on, and a general impression has, I think, taken hold not only among the American public but also around the world that somehow we're out there willy-nilly just sucking in information on everybody and doing what we please with it. Now, that's not the case. Our laws specifically prohibit us from surveilling U.S. persons without a warrant, and there are a whole range of safeguards that have been put in place to make sure that that basic principle is abided by. But what is clear is that whether because of the instinctive bias of the intelligence community to keep everything very close, and probably what's a fair criticism is my assumption that if we had checks and balances from the courts and Congress, that that traditional system of checks and balances would be enough to give people assurance that these programs will run properly. That assumption, I think, proved to be undermined by what happened after the leaks. I think people have questions about this program. And so as a consequence, I think it is important for us to go ahead and answer these questions. What I'm going to be pushing the IC to do is, rather than have a trunk come out here and a leg come out there and a tail come out there, let's just put the whole elephant out there so people know exactly what they're looking at. Let's examine what is working, what's not, are there additional protections that can be put in place, and let's move forward. And there's no doubt that Mr. Snowden's leaks triggered a much more rapid and passionate response than would have been the case if I had simply appointed this review board to go through and I'd sat down with Congress and we had worked this thing through. It would have been less exciting. It would not have generated as much press. I actually think we would have gotten to the same place. And we would have done so without putting at risk our national security and some very vital ways that we are able to get intelligence that we need to secure.
Okay, so I've got lots to say about that. First of all, the definition of a patriot, who Obama believes Snowden is not a patriot, is a person who vigorously supports their country and is prepared to defend it against enemies or detractors. Okay? He is defending his country. He's letting you and I know what our government is doing. Okay? Secondly, like he would be able to be protected under the Whistleblower Act. He can't even be protected now. So this administration doesn't come in and give the right facts. This administration comes in and does damage control. Okay? And they are looking at your information according to the report yesterday with these leaks. And apparently these leaks are accurate or they wouldn't be hunting down Snowden and wanting him so badly. I mean, if we had checks and balances, okay, people have questions about this program. Of course we do. We should have questions about it. And if you don't, then you don't even have a clue what's going on in your country if you don't have questions about this. And furthermore, you don't even have a clue what your rights are, and you need to get that in check. Okay? So to put the whole thing out there like an elephant, let's address that part. Okay, so why charge Snowden with felonies then if you're just going to put it out there? Why do you want him so badly if you're going to be so transparent about what the NSA is doing? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Josh, do you have the other clip from President Obama a couple weeks ago?
I came in with a healthy skepticism about these programs. My team evaluated them. We scrubbed them thoroughly. We actually expanded some of the oversight, increased some of the safeguards. But my assessment and my team's assessment was that they help us prevent terrorist attacks. And the modest encroachments on privacy that are involved in getting phone numbers or duration without a name attached and not looking at content.
Modest.
That on net, it was worth us doing. That's, some other folks may have a different assessment of that. But I think it's important to recognize that you can't have 100% security and also then have 100% privacy and zero inconvenience. We're going to have to make some choices as a society. And by the way, with respect to my concerns about privacy issues, I will leave this office at some point, sometime in the next 3.5 years. And after that, I will be a private citizen. And I suspect that, on a list of people who might be targeted, so that somebody could read their emails or listen to their phone calls, I'd probably be pretty high on that list. So it's not as if I don't have a personal interest in making sure my privacy is protected. But I know that the people who are involved in these programs, they operate like professionals. And these things are very narrowly circumscribed. They're very focused. And in the abstract, you can complain about Big Brother and how this is a potential, program run amok. But when you actually look at the details, then I think we've struck the right balance.
Okay, programs run amok. Can you say that again? Okay, we've got the DEA running their criminal investigations from the FBI, the NSA, and then trashing the evidence, not letting you know where they got it, and not letting you know that they're spying on you. What's your take on this, Ed? Because I am actually furious every time I hear them say this.
The jury's still out for me because I know there's all kinds of accusations on both sides, and I'm not comfortable yet with where the truth lies. I hope in the coming months or maybe years we'll find that out. But several things come to mind. First, when anytime a government official says, I have called for a review of this, that is the standard operating procedure of any person in power who there's trouble within their organization, because that makes them look like they're not a part of it, and by God, they're going to get to the bottom of it. We're not just willy-nilly looking at everybody's information. Well, that begs the question, okay, what exactly are you doing? Mm-hmm. But I know the problem with that is it is in the classified area, and they can't tell us exactly, but it seems like they're just brushing it aside. He says our laws prohibit certain things, but that does not mean that the government's not doing it, because our government history is filled with things, especially this administration. And then he says, and I think you're going to play a clip later where Cotton says the same thing. This is what we are doing helps prevent terrorist attacks. Well, that sounds really good, and I'm all for preventing terrorist attacks, but only within the restrictions of the Constitution. If we would let your local police go door to door and randomly search people's houses without warrants, without notice, we would solve some crimes. We would probably be able to lower crime.
But we don't.
If we allowed that.
Now, why don't we, Ed?
Because freedom is more important than safety.
And when he says you cannot have 100% security and 100% privacy with zero inconvenience, we all have to make some choices, Ed.
And we do. And the right is against unreasonable search and seizure. It's the only one of our rights in the Bill of Rights that the Founding Fathers put in there. It's the only time they use the word reasonable. It says we're protected against unreasonable search and seizure. So reasonable search and seizure is perfectly okay. Right, so that's the big debate, is what's reasonable. And what's spelled out in the Fourth Amendment, and what I believe our society and our courts have generally held, is if there is a warrant based upon evidence of probable cause, then they're allowed to search.
But there's a warrant. Right? When you get served a warrant and they come to your house, they show you the warrant, you know that there's a warrant, you know what information that they had to get that warrant, and they get to search your house, and that is reasonable. But when they have a blanket warrant over anybody's cell phone, emails, any kind of data they want to get on you, and you don't know it,
Well, that blanket warrant goes directly back to one of the reasons that we declared and eventually won our independence, something called a general warrant, where a British officer had a piece of paper that said, this officer is allowed to search anything, anytime, for any reason. And it's called a general warrant. And that's why when we wrote the Fourth Amendment, it says the warrant has to say what specifically is being looked for and where specifically can they search.
That's right. Thank you. All right, so we've got Jerry in Conway.
Hi, I just have a question for you.
Sure.
Where and what is a system of checks and balances? Like when they go to Congress or when he gets his administrative people together and they're discussing their oversight and changes, making reform, and they're doing all this, and he says, well, we're making a few changes here, we're doing this and that. Where's the system for the checks and balances when it comes to the higher ups, and why is it failing?
Well, to be honest with you, this is a secret court that issued this secret warrant. So how do you have checks and balances on the secret court and warrants?
Well,
so exactly, and Congress all knew about this, and on Father's Day, that weekend of Father's Day, it was a Friday, or it was a Thursday or Friday. They were doing hearings and going over everything, all this information they had collected. There were only 45 members of the Senate that showed up because they had to fly out for Father's Day. They were not concerned with what was going on with the NSA. They were more concerned with getting home to spend time with their children, which I think that's great. But you signed up to defend the Constitution for your constituents. You should have been there.
Exactly. Exactly. I think there needs to be a reform in Congress and the concern that the people have for the Constitution. And for somebody, I know there are people there that care about our rights and care about our citizenry.
Right. Obviously, there's 45 of them that cared enough to stay and hang around and listen.
That's terrifying. Then the people in the states of the Union need to get together and start taking action to know, as constituents, what their representatives are doing.
I completely agree. But thank you for calling, Jerry.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. She has a great point that I'm glad she helped me make that point, because when you have a secret, how are you supposed to check it when nobody knows about it? Isn't that the point of having three forms of government, so that we check each form of government?
Checks and balances, yep. Checks and balances.
And so I just think this is absolutely out of control. And that's why I want to hear what you guys have to say today. So give us a call, 433-0092, area code 501. And so, Ed, where do you think something like this... Well, you said you don't really want to comment on it, but... I don't have a problem commenting on it.
Well, I mean, I can comment on general. I'm a little dumbfounded. Of course, I guess I know why. All the people on the left that were just trying to crucify George Bush when the Patriot Act was passed.
Yes.
For the absolute unconstitutional invasion of privacy, and all of them are silent. We had. But back then, the roving wiretap got attention, where instead of just saying I'm going to tap you and your phone in your house. It was the idea of the roving wiretap is I can tap any phone you go to. So if you came over, you're the suspect. You're the one that has the warrant. If you came over to my house for dinner, they could tap my phone.
Right.
And if you went to a restaurant and used their phone while you were there, they could tap that phone. It was a roving wiretap.
Or checking to see what library books I checked out.
And everybody got upset over that.
Yeah,
and
it's
now,
no longer...
and I'm not convinced they are, but if they are randomly looking at maybe not the specific data of what I type in an email, but if they're randomly looking at citizens... Where are you sending emails? Who are you sending them to? How often do you send them? What's the duration? That's an invasion of privacy.
Yeah. Do you have Tom Cotton's response there for me? Will you play that, please?
Val Emmons is here as well. Tom, I'm going to let her go ahead and ask your question as well.
Hey, Tom,
Sure.
how are you?
Hey, good, Val. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And I applaud you on the farm bill. I think that did need to be split out a long time ago.
Well, thank you.
But I do have a hard question for you. You may not think it's hard, but a lot of people have asked me to ask this question and are talking about it. There are reports coming in that in Syria, 450 Kurds have been slaughtered at the hands of al-Qaeda-linked jihadists and who are also fighting Assad. You voted to send to help for the defense to send weapons to Syrian rebels who now look to be mixed in with al-Qaeda jihadists. So can you guarantee us that our taxpayer dollars aren't being used to fund these guns that might possibly be in the hands of these al-Qaeda jihadists?
Well, Val, thanks for the question. As to the report on which it's based, I have not seen that. It is certainly possible. Over 100,000 civilians have been slaughtered in the Syrian civil war. I do believe that we need to try to support and ultimately arm the pro-Western native Syrian rebels who have been fighting the civil war against Bashar al-Assad, an awful tyrant, for 2.5 years. But you're right that because President Obama has not led, it's now going to be much harder to do that because al-Qaeda has infiltrated the rebel movement. So we have to be very careful in who we arm and who we train. But I do think it is still critical that we try to work on the side of the good guys in Syria, because look at the terrible consequences that civil war is having on our national security interests. It's destabilizing our partner Jordan, which is terrible for Israel. It's threatening Israel with the proliferation of weapons in the region, which also threatens us with our troops there and ultimately here on our own homeland. And it's strengthening the hand of Iran and Hezbollah, two sworn enemies of the United States, because they're providing so much of the troops and so much of the money to support the regime there. So I do believe that we need to work with the pro-Western rebels. But as you say, we have to be very measured and judicious in who we identify and how we train them, how we arm them, and certainly what kind of arms we give to them, because we don't want to introduce any kind of new and advanced weaponry into the battlefield that's not already there.
Well, and not only that, but my take on it is that if al-Qaeda topples Assad before the rebels, then we're in big trouble, and so is in Israel.
That would be a terrible outcome, I agree. But it would also, I think, be a terrible outcome if Bashar al-Assad remained in power, emboldened by his victory, which would also embolden Iran and embolden Hezbollah. So both of those are equally bad outcomes, and it would have been much easier to avoid either if the president had led 2.5 years ago. But simply because the president refused to lead then, I don't think America can refuse to lead now.
Well, how are we ensuring that those guns don't make it into the hands of the al-Qaeda-backed jihadists, though? That was kind of my question.
Well, as I said, we have to rely on experiences that we have in other wars in other countries. Our intelligence agencies, military has done this before. They've done it in places like Afghanistan, and we have to carefully screen them. Now, all the techniques we use for that can't always be discussed in open channels, but we do have, I think, to try to use those techniques and ensure that we're getting the right kind of aid, whether it's lethal aid or non-lethal aid, to those indigenous pro-Western rebels.
Okay, now I have one more question, and this is regarding the NSA. Can you explain your vote for the NSA to continue surveillance on Americans through the defense bill that you voted for? And really, I'm not asking from a military standpoint, but rather as a U.S. citizen. We're not all military here, and I understand how you want it to be able to spot. I'm sorry. Hello?
Can you hear us, Tom?
All right. There's another part of that, if you can find that, Josh, where I got to ask him a question. He did call back in, but we did lose him there. And we know everyone was saying I scared him off the call, but that's not the case. Tom was traveling in Hot Springs Village, and it's really bad reception in that area. So I want to defend him on that. But when Josh finds that, you'll hear that. But when we come back, I want to talk to you about this. The Kurds problem, because the president of Iraqi Kurdistan, is ready to defend the Kurds in Syria. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and I'll tell you more about that. Hi, this is Val Emmons, host of the Crime Chronicle Live. I want to take just a moment to tell you about the HCG diet that helped me lose 32 pounds in 35 days and keep it off. If you want to know more about the HCG diet, you can call Dr. Schroeder at New Creations Weight Loss Clinic at 501-791-6795 to be on your way to a new, slimmer you. You have no idea how good it felt to go into my closet, pull out clothes that hadn't fit me in a year, and put them on, and they fit. So give him a call, Dr. Schroeder, New Creations Weight Loss Clinic, 501-791-6795. You will not regret it. Tell him Val sent you.
88 degrees in Little Rock at 4:30. I'm Mike Kemp in the KARN News Center. 4 people arrested for a string of armed robberies that included restaurants and stores in Little Rock, North Little Rock, Sherwood, and Cabot. Fox 16's Hubert Tate was there when local and federal officials announced those arrests.
They were very violent individuals. They were very aggressive in their attempts. In nearly all of them, the victims were forced, after being robbed, were forced into the store freezer, and hence the name Summer Blast.
Investigators say the robberies happened at 5 different Sonic drive-ins, 2 Subway restaurants, Dollar General, Yogurt Mountain, and the Bank of England. Detectives say all the crimes happened between January and June.
This case is probably not over, actually, and there will probably be some other things developed from it.
Central Arkansas Water hiring a consultant to study the status of ExxonMobil's pipeline that runs through the Maumelle watershed.
Central Arkansas Water's Robert Hart says previous tests showed the pipeline has had trouble in the past.
The pipeline was inactive from 2002 to 2006, and when they decided to restart the pipeline, they did do pressure tests, or what are called hydrostatic tests of the pipeline, and there were a number of breaks as a result of that, 2 of which were within the Lake Maumelle watershed.
And Hart says there's also data they haven't seen but have asked ExxonMobil to share, including more recent inline tests conducted in 2010 and 2013. He says it's all part of a plan to ensure the secure future of a water supply that serves 400,000 Central Arkansas residents. Donna Kelly, KARN News Radio.
Governor Mike Beebe's named Nathaniel Smith as director and state health officer for the Arkansas Department of Health. Smith's been serving as interim director since on air, online, KARNnewsradio.com.
Global Mills needed to unload excess inventory, and we must make room. So right now, you can get an unheard-of flooring deal at Lumber Liquidators Flooring Clearance Sale. Get big clearance deals from 39 cents a square foot. Pre-finished hardwood from an amazing $169. All vinyl plank flooring is on sale. Plus, get special financing. First come, first served. These deals will not last. Don't wait. Our flooring clearance sale is going on now. Visit lumberliquidators.com or your local store before these deals get away.
Hi, Tom Bodette. Motel 6 is always thinking of ways to make it easier to book a clean, comfortable room for a great low rate. And this is the first test of our reservation by telepathy system, commencing now. Now. Wait a minute. Now. Well, you can still call 1-800-4-MOTEL-6, book online at motel6.com, or with our cool new app on your tablet or smartphone. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Local restaurants, shops, salons, and more with savings of 50 to 90% every time. Live more, spend less. Download the mobile app now.
Now that's a real sweet deal.
Sweetjack.com.
Hi, this is Val Emmons. Do you have a business? Are you part of a nonprofit? Do you want to reach tens of thousands of loyal and informed consumers? Well, advertising on this radio show is more effective and affordable than you could ever imagine. Please call me 870-897-7716 or email me ccvalemmons@gmail.com to learn how you can have your business or organization's message heard on Crime Chronicle Live. That number again is 870-897-7716. Give me a call today.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Smith, and I'd like to talk to you about a screening. No, not a movie screening, but a screening test for colorectal cancer. It could save your life. Colorectal cancer is highly preventable, yet it is the second leading cancer killer of men and women in the U.S. But it doesn't have to be. Screening finds precancerous polyps so that they can be removed before they turn into cancer. So please, get screened for colorectal cancer. I did.
If you're 50 or older, get screened. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Don's Weaponry has been taking care of sportsmen for over 20 years. At Don's, you have a huge selection of new and used pistols and rifles, police trade-ins, holsters, scopes, ammo, reloading supplies, magazines, and more. 6,000 square feet of inventory, including a 7-lane pistol range open 7 days a week. Smith & Wesson, Taurus, Ruger, Kimber, Springfield Armory, Glock, Walther, and more. Stop by Don's Weaponry, 4116 East Broadway in Rose City for everything the hunter and shooter needs.
An individual health insurance plan from QualChoice can save you money, but what are you giving up? The truth is, nothing at all. QualChoice has a plan to fit every budget and includes a broad network of doctors across the state and nationwide for when you need medical care while traveling. How's the service? Well, 9 out of 10 QualChoice members rate the service outstanding. So you can save money and get great service. Want to see for yourself? Go to myiqchoice.com for a quote or talk to your insurance agent about QualChoice.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Smits, and I'd like to talk to you about a screening. No, not a movie screening, but a screening test for colorectal cancer. It could save your life. Colorectal cancer is highly preventable, yet it is the second leading cancer killer of men and women in the U.S. But it doesn't have to be. Screening finds precancerous polyps so that they can be removed before they turn into cancer. So please, get screened for colorectal cancer. I did.
If you're 50 or older, get screened. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, this is Val Emmons, host of the Crime Chronicle Live. I want to take just a moment to tell you about the HCG diet that helped me lose 32 pounds in 35 days and keep it off. If you want to know more about the HCG diet, you can call Dr. Schroeder at New Creations Weight Loss Clinic at 501-791-6795 to be on your way to a new, slimmer you. You have no idea how good it felt to go into my closet, pull out clothes that hadn't fit me in a year, and put them on, and they fit. So give him a call, Dr. Schroeder, New Creations Weight Loss Clinic, 501-791-6795. You will not regret it. Tell him Val sent you.
You're listening to Central Arkansas's only radio show on crime, Crime Chronicle Live, with your host, Val Emmons.
Let's get him in. And Tom, Val was asking about the NSA.
Okay, so we're going to hear the clip from Tom when I asked him about the NSA, and then we'll go back to the Kurds.
And the vote on the defense bill, and as a citizen, she was asking about, this whole scale. Whole scale is kind of spying on the American people.
What I meant though was not from your military standpoint of view, but look at it like from a citizen standpoint of view. We're in America, not in Iraq, and I understand your needle in a haystack scenario, but this is America, and people are very upset about this, and your vote.
No, and Val, I understand that, especially when you have agencies like the IRS who are abusing their power, who are violating American constitutional rights.
And
but
the
NSA and the NSA program is very different. That's mostly run by military officers. They are acting in accordance with federal law. They are targeting foreign persons, and they are trying to protect Americans. I think that's very different. The program itself, I can assure you, it is not collecting any content. It's not wiretapping or eavesdropping on anyone's communications. It's not collecting any personally identifiable information. No names, no addresses, security numbers.
But they're collecting my email and any website I go to, and
we lost him again. It's just that cell phone.
Okay, so we lost him there, but that is not obviously true because the newly leaked information, as I told you, is collecting personal information, searching they can search your name, your email address, and other identifiers in the United States citizens. So this is just something that you need to go out and research. You need to listen to. And I want to talk. I do want to talk about what's going on over in Syria right now, because I find that it is ridiculously insane that we just voted to give them weapons, and there unconfirmed reports have emerged detailing a new massacre in which 450 Kurds, including 120 children, were allegedly slaughtered by Al-Qaeda linked rebels fighting against the Syrian government. And so what that means is that we've given guns to Syria, but basically there's Al-Qaeda who are like, oh, well, we're going to side with you and we're going to help you topple Assad, but now they are leading everything and they've taken over. And probably a lot of them were some of the 500 to 1,000 people that escaped Abu Ghraib 2 weeks ago, which is why we have heightened security in the United States right now, because people don't realize that, because Obama didn't even say that when he was on Leno. But the Interpol released the real reason why the heightened security is because 500 to 1,000 prisoners escaped our Iraqi prison, Abu Ghraib, 2 weeks ago. So basically, Colin Cavan, a political science academic at Bluefield State College in West Virginia, told RT, right now most of the American people are very unclear about exactly what is going on. Our media kind of keeps it down low on one end, and on the other end it says we are supporting moderate democratic opposition, which is hilarious to anybody who is following this, because we are supporting Al-Qaeda linked jihadists who are massacring people. So that was why I asked Tom, how can we ensure that those weapons don't get into the hands of these? Because if that happens, they can topple Assad, take Assad's weapons, and use them against us and Israel. So we've got a couple of minutes. I'm going to take a call. I have Jerry in Conway. Jerry? Jerry, are you there? Dave? All right. Are y'all there? Okay. Well, nobody.
Well, Valerie, I'll just throw in there. I don't think you can keep. Anytime our government chooses to give military aid, especially weapons to a certain party that we're hoping will come out on top, we take a huge risk. You know, hundreds of millions of dollars we poured into the Soviet Union, Russia during World War II when they were our allies. Once the war was over, within just a couple of years, they were our sworn enemies. And there they sat with a lot of military weaponry that we helped them build and helped them buy. When we finally gave up on Vietnam and the North took over the South, we had funded and armed the South Vietnamese military. We supported Iran with the Shah and gave them a lot of weaponry and training. Because I found it funny as a young military officer when I looked and saw that we had trained Iranian officers at our schools.
And then they turned around on us.
Exactly.
And that's what's going to happen here.
The stingers that we poured into Afghanistan to get rid of the Soviet military, and we did. Yay, we all gave high fives, but then the Taliban swiftly came in and took over. So, and in Egypt, we have been training and funding and giving military aid and weaponry and training to Egypt. So anytime we give military assistance to any faction,
we just got to stop. We got to stop.
We got to try to make sure that, or maybe be willing to go in and physically make sure that the weaponry doesn't get in the wrong hands.
Because I don't trust that we know how to do that. I don't trust that we know how to do that. All right, we've got Dave. Dave?
I'm here.
Okay, hey.
Yeah, what gets me is these morons that we put in office do not realize that Islam's ultimate goal is world domination.
And to kill Americans.
Kill everybody who's not Islam, exactly.
Right.
You know that they have a thing in their religion that says that if they want to, they can lie to you blatantly without any repercussions. How in the world can you make a treaty with a group of people who can follow faith lie to you?
You can't.
And all that. But Tom Cotton, he was for the furlough. We're sending, 4 F-16 fighter jets to the Muslim Brotherhood, which would have easily paid for the furlough.
There you go.
There we go. And once again, one of the geniuses, the mental midgets we have in our government, again, is doing its best to destroy America. And this nation was burned in blood and gunpowder, and that may be what makes the resurrection of it to come back.
I agree. Thanks for calling, Dave.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. So right now, to help the Kurds out, the president of Kurdistan, he's saying if the reports are true, he posted this letter online. Let's see. In a letter which he posted online Saturday on the Kurdistan Regional Government website, the president said that he told Kurdish representatives to go to Syria and investigate the reports that terrorists of al-Qaeda are attacking the civilian population and slaughtering innocent Kurdish women and children. They're using them as shields. They're putting them in front of gunfire, using them as shields. They've went into the homes, murdered the men, and took the children and the women. I mean, how much... I just can't. Ooh, it just makes me so angry that we are even giving weapons. If you want to go in and you want to help these people out, let's just drop the weapons in their hand, and we know where they go. That's where they go. We don't know. Anyway, so if the reports are true showing that citizens, women, and children of innocent Kurds are under threat from murder and terrorism, Iraq's Kurdistan region will make use of all of its capabilities to defend women and children and innocent civilians. So... we'll have more on this in the weeks to come, I'm sure. And I want you to research it and don't be a victim. Stay in tune to what's going on in your country right now because there's a lot of stuff going down and you need to know about it. Come out tonight, see us at Whole Hog.
And eat some barbecue.
That's right, on Cantrell at 6 o'clock. Have a good one.
This is the voice of Arkansas. News Radio 102.9 FM KARN, Sheridan, a Cumulus station.
A mixture of clouds and some sunshine for your Saturday with a few scattered showers, possibly a thunderstorm, especially during the afternoon hours. Very humid with high temperatures in the low 90s. For tonight, partly cloudy skies, an isolated shower or thunderstorm, low temperatures in the mid-70s. And for Sunday, partly sunny with a few scattered showers and possibly an isolated thunderstorm or two with highs in the low 90s. This is Fox 16 Chief Meteorologist Jeff Bass.